Welcome to 5 on the Go, the ultimate career development podcast, created for students learning to uncover their career paths. In this episode, our guest, Felicity Morgan, helps us to learn about the importance of career exploration and how it is vital in determining your next steps. This is 5 on the Go, where your career journey never stops, and neither do we. On this first ever episode of 5 on the Go, we have our very own Career Center Director from the University of Toronto Mississauga, Felicity Morgan. Let's take a moment to welcome Felicity. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
We're looking forward to learning a little bit more about you and your career journey. But Felicity, I guess the best thing to do is let's get to know who you are.
Sure. In terms of me as a Career Center Director, I have worked at the University of Toronto for quite a while in a variety of roles, but mostly career counselling and at all 3 campuses. But I've also worked outside of the university a little bit as well, so got a taste of that too. I'm a UT alum, St. George, and I studied psychology and sociology as my undergrad, and then went and did a master's in counseling psychology at OISE afterwards as well. So pretty much been in career development all my career in some way or another, but really excited to work with students. That's why I came back to U of T, because working with students is incredibly rewarding and also just really fun to be with them and to hear their stories and what they're thinking about. And so hopefully helping them, as you said, inspire confidence, see their directions, and move forward in their lives as well.
All right. You know what, Felicity, thanks so much for that introduction, for helping us get to know who you are and why you get up every day to be here to help our students, especially at this campus, and supporting students right across all 3 campuses. So can you talk to us a bit about your journey into career development and how did you get into this field?
I think I was a really typical student. I didn't think about career in a really concrete way until I was in my graduating year. And then I got scared and thought, oh no, what am I going to do? Yeah. So as I said, I was a St. George student. So I went to the Career Center there and started using their services, started getting some sense of how I could combine those majors, psychology and sociology. And while I was there, I started to realize I really liked the Career Center. It seemed like a really nice place. People were really interested in helping students, and that was an important thing for me, one of my values. And so I started to think about, well, what could I do in this field? I was able to get a volunteer position in my last year there. So I worked as a volunteer, started to talk to the other staff that are there, learn more about their careers, how they got there. And then upon graduation, I was able to get not a job at the Career Center. That didn't happen right away. Right. But I was able to, through the network I'd created with other staff, get a job at the School of Graduate Studies, which was a really interesting job and helpful. It was the lowest job available at the university at the time. So I say that to encourage people because it was getting my foot in the door at U of T, which was really important. And then about 10 months later, there was an opportunity at the Career Center. I was able to secure that and then started working in a few different roles to try to figure out what part of a career I really liked. That's what caused me to go and do my master's to become a career counselor. My first career counseling job was a contract. Again, I really want to emphasize that because often you just have to get started and get your foot in the door. And then that transformed into more ongoing positions. As I mentioned, I left the university for a little bit, but then really missed the students. So came back to the Scarborough campus, back at St. George again for a short while, and then here to UTM. Along the way, I developed, some leadership skills. So I was able to take on more leadership roles, which culminated in becoming the director here at UTM.
It's fantastic. Felicity, I want to go back to something you said. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I see that quite often working with a number of students is going out and networking with people, getting advice, listening to what they're saying. Can you help us recollect maybe 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you got while you were networking with people, gaining that insight and knowledge, and then how did you go about using it to find those first few steps in your career path?
I was very nervous to network. I'm actually quite an introverted person, so going out and talking to strangers is not my number one activity.
Right.
So I needed some encouragement, but what I got from the mentors, informal mentors that I had at the Career Center, was that importance of exploring and learning. And if you approached conversations from that angle versus I need a job, people would be much more open to giving you information. So they said, just go and tell people you're a new grad or you're in your final year, talk to them about what your hopes are, the kinds of things that you're interested in, and see if they can see any connection with the work that they do or people that they know. So I think that was great advice, is to just approach it more from information gathering rather than actively looking for a specific position from someone. Because it's really easy for someone to say, we don't have any openings right now. But it's harder for people, and most people are really okay, especially with new grads or university students, to say, I have information I can share with you, and that will help you along the way.
It's so interesting that you bring up all those little things that took you to get to where you're at today and find sort of that opportunity that you're at serving students, helping them. But you and I have been in these roles supporting students for some time, but we've also made mistakes on the way. Do you recollect maybe something along the line where you may have faltered, you weren't too sure, you've helped us understand that you were an introvert, were there some mistakes that you gained knowledge and experience and understanding that helped you along the way? Because I don't think it's a bad thing to make a mistake early on in your career.
Yeah, definitely. I was smiling because I could probably tell you a lot of mistakes that I made along the way, Jason, for sure. I think one of the first lessons that I had to learn, and it was really in that position at the School of Graduate Studies, and I mentioned it was kind of the lowest level position you could get, is that I needed to learn. So I had graduated from U of T. I had really learned a lot from my time. I had also, worked summer jobs, part-time jobs, and volunteered. So I felt I was really ready to contribute to the university. But my boss was great in that she said, yes, you do have a lot, but you need to learn a lot more now too, because the transition from being a student to being a full-time worker, those are two different things. And you need to take some time to learn how full-time work works before you kind of come forth with all your great ideas. So she wasn't discouraging me from having ideas, but coaching me more on how to put them together, how to actually test them out in my own mind before I brought them forward to her or to other people, and to really get that context of what was going on in the workplace, stuff that I just wasn't aware of before, because when you're working in summer jobs and part-time jobs, it's a little bit different than when it's a full-time opportunity. So that advice, I think, was really valuable and helped me always to kind of, when I entered a new position, to step back, get some context, get to know everybody, get to understand the business, and then be able to bring forward some ideas. And it didn't mean I had to wait months or years,
right,
but just getting some of those pieces, or at least asking the questions, helped other people really understand that I was there to help, and to not just because I thought I had great ideas that I needed to get out there.
Yeah, I love the fact that you spoke about asking questions. For me, that was my big learning. It was letting my supervisors, those who managed me, just communicate to them that I needed help. Yeah. I didn't know everything.
Yes.
And it was okay that even though I was hired as a new graduate, that I didn't need to know everything from day one. So just being able to communicate that, not being scared of being able to ask for help, raising your hand. So thanks a lot for sharing that advice and that input, because those really do help somebody who's starting out for the first time as well. The University of Toronto Mississauga's Career Centre is unique in its student career development support. Could you help us understand what's the difference between a career counselor and an employment strategist that serve our students here as well?
For sure. I think the two roles, they do have some overlap, but to distinguish between them, the career counselors are really helping students figure out what they would like to do or some of the options that they'd like to at least explore. So they really help students walk through that process of self-assessment. Who am I? What do I like doing? What am I good at or hope that I could be good at? What's really important to me? What is my personality? How does that impact on things? What are all the other factors around me in terms of, educational options, the labor market information, the influence of others on our career and their thoughts about us, and helping students kind of work through all of those pieces and then be able to actually come up with some options that they'd like to explore. So very much in that assessment and exploratory phase. Our employment strategists are specialists in the area of the job search. And that has become more and more, I'd say, complicated or complex over the last number of years, which is why we created the position. So it's not just resumes and interviews, which are, of course, important pieces, but also the idea of networking, as we talked about, and the challenges that a lot of folks feel around networking. They can help with LinkedIn, so that, although not new anymore, it's still kind of an unknown thing for a lot of students. They can put up a profile easily, but how do I use this platform, and what do I do with that? So our employment strategists really specialize in helping people learn skills and strategies around the job search. And they're also there to support the students during the job search, because we know finding a job takes time. It's not something, unfortunately, that we graduate and then within 2 weeks we have a job. It can take some months to really find the job you want. So our employment strategists can really help with that piece.
Yeah, and so that is a really good breakdown of the difference of roles that the team members play in serving our students. I think one thing that maybe students struggle with is coming to the Career Center too late, or at least they feel in their minds it's too late. Is there ever a time where you feel it's too late for a student to come seek support from either a career counselor or an employment strategist? No,
it's never too late. And as I shared, I didn't come until the end of my degree. So right. I totally understand that idea. We know that career is important to our students, but it's not always as urgent as that exam next week or that paper or lab report that has to be written up tomorrow. So we understand how students, may not think of career right away. And so it's never too late to come. We encourage you to come early, but we're there for you, not just when you're a student, but for 2 years after graduation. So even if you're that person that walked across that stage at Convocation Hall, got your diploma, and then thought, oh, now what? We're there to help. So students can always come during that time period as new grads and get the help that they need.
I wonder if students, new graduates, alum that are seeking support, having seen so many students yourself, how important is the question, who am I?
Yeah, it's an important question. I think that in career development, we don't always know until we're in it. So again, another reason why often we put it off, because we don't realize how important that question is. We kind of think, and again, I can totally relate. This was my question to my first career counselor. I have this degree, psych and social. What am I going to do with it? Really just seeing myself in terms of my degree, and that there must be kind of this handy list, which there is, of options for me. But what I didn't understand is that it's not so much like that I choose from a list. It's really knowing who I am and what's important to me, because no list can list everything that a person could do, because your degree it's one part of you, but it isn't the only part of you that should be involved in that decision making. So I think that who am I is so important, because it takes the degree pieces into account. That maybe is your interests and your skills. But you'll have other interests and skills outside that. You'll also have, as I mentioned, personality characteristics, values, the things that are really important to you in your life, that you really want to shape your life so you achieve those values. Those are important things, because even if you know a career, the name of a career, where that career happens can really be influenced, say, by values. So I'll always remember a student that I saw, it's a number of years ago now, who had taken accountancy because that's where their skills were. They were good. They got good marks. They got lots of job offers. but they weren't happy because the values of the companies and the personality pieces were not aligned. What the company was looking for, who they were, two different things. So we had to step back and do a little bit more work on who were they. And they realized that there were pieces of them that weren't being reflected in perhaps what you'd think of as a traditional path. So they sought a different path and went to work actually for an entertainment company in their accounting department because that was a better fit for them. So even once you have a career, if you don't have those pieces, you don't always know where you want to go and who you should network with.
Makes sense. That is such a great example of a student who's, I don't know if people always think about that, or our students always think about that, or prospective candidates always think about it. Do your values align with the organization you're going for? Are you just jumping into something because you need an opportunity? So yeah, thanks for breaking that down. That really helps out as well. I want to go back to what you had said earlier. You went to the Career Center a little bit later in your own journey. So if we had to, help our current up-year students, those alumni that need that support, if they could go back in time to their first year, what is some advice that you would give to them? What is something that, you would want them to walk away with as they think about where they're at today? And to the listeners who might be in high school or at that position right now, or even later in life, what would you give as advice, or maybe I wish I could have done that sort of scenario?
Yeah, so definitely that message is never too late, because there's always opportunity. We continue this process throughout our career. So even though I've presented to you kind of here's my path, there was a lot of places along the way where I had to stand back and say, is this where I want to go? Is this right for me? So one, it's never too late for anyone. Our new grads and our upper year students often say, if you can tell first years, tell them to start early, because that would help them. I mentioned before how until we're in the process, we don't really understand all the steps of it. And that's what happens, is that because we leave it a bit later, often, then we find out that there's all these things that we could have done in first, second, and third year that we didn't engage in, or we have to engage in them, but at an accelerated pace. So I think for everybody, wherever you are, getting started is important. But if you're in those high school or first or second year times, really just going to your career center. Hopefully you're a UTM student, you're going to come to our career center. But wherever you are, starting to engage in your career planning, getting to know yourself, getting a variety of experiences so you can explore and find out what it is like in different workplaces and different types of roles. Even if you're not doing all those roles, you can observe and watch other people and talk to people, create that network for yourself. So starting early is important, because what we really want to do is help students develop that career clarity. So I mentioned before the student who was interested in accounting or went into accounting. He was career decided. He knew that accounting fit on some levels for him, but he hadn't really thought about who he was, as I mentioned. So he didn't have clarity. He didn't know why he wanted to be an accountant. So really our goal is to help students get that clarity of who they are and what they want. And that then helps them to be decided. But being decided without clarity can delay your process, can send you in directions that aren't the right ones for you. And that's what we hope to help our students avoid.
Felicity, when we think about our early year students, it's a major transition to go from high school to first year.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's that awkwardness that many students feel. They don't know how to socialize at times, at an event, maybe at a career fair, things of that nature. Even just walking up to the Career Center to get help. Can you help us understand how the Career Center is shifting its thoughts around a value of belonging and how every student belongs to the services that we provide? Do you want to expand on that a little bit and help each of our students, prospective students, and others that we support what belonging is all about?
Yeah, belonging is a key value for the Career Center, and it's something that as a staff we really talked about a lot very recently as we looked at our own mission, vision, and values. It's important because we want students to feel comfortable being their authentic selves, being where they are and coming in to talk to us. So there's no question that's trivial, small, or dumb. You know, often people walk in and say, oh, I have kind of a dumb question. Not at all. Whatever question you have is the question you need to ask, and we're here to help you with that. Whether it's, I don't even know how to, figure out what psychology really is, for example, or what anthropology or biology is for me, or I know what I want, but I'm not sure how to get that network, or I just need help with some interview skills. All things that happen in career, those questions are all welcome. And even if it doesn't seem super career related or it's kind of tangential, people can ask us those questions. And if it's not our area, we'll help them find the department or person that can help answer those questions. But that feeling some confidence to ask questions is important. And so we want to foster that and be welcoming to our students when they come in and see what they need. Sometimes the first question we asked isn't actually the question that we really want, but it's our warm-up question to kind of test out the people we're talking to. So you're welcome to do that as a student. Come in, talk to us, whatever question you have. And we hope that it's just the start of something with us and that you might ask that first question and then continue to come back and use different services as you need them.
Excellent. Felicity, before we wrap it up here for this segment of 5 on the Go, is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners or the viewers before we wrap up for this segment, a piece of advice or something that you feel could go a long way for anybody who's thinking about their career development journey, maybe that career pathway, or just taking a risk on something? If there's a sort of a last thing you want to share with our viewers and listeners, that would be awesome.
Sure. I think that what's important is just take a small step.
Right.
A career can feel so overwhelming. Students report a lot of anxiety around their career. So our message really is just take that one small step, whether that's coming in to talk to us, whether that's using our live chat that's on our website, or emailing us, or checking out our website or what we have on the CLNX. Any small step will help you get further. And hopefully, with a positive experience, you'll be encouraged to do more steps. So just take one small step and then see how we can help you.
I love that. Just hearing the word anxiety at times, like you feel those palpitations, that sweat on the eyebrow. But I love it. Just take that one small step. Just get over that hump that's holding you back. And really we're here to help you. We're here to serve you, the student, in getting that support. Felicity, thank you so much for being here. This is episode 1, and you dropped a lot of wisdom for our listeners. Just want to thank you so much for your time and look forward to seeing the next steps in how we could continue to serve and support our prospective students, current students, and future alum as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.